This is textile focused. I'm really excited to have Pedro as our guest today. He's got a lot of experience in textiles, and I see, there's quite a few of you else other on here that have a lot of experience in textiles. So I'm going to admit, very straightforward, I'm not an expert. And so I like that you guys are on because you guys are able to dive into questions that I may not be able to. So again, I really open it up that you guys are more than welcome to ask questions and holler. So with that being said, I'd love to turn it over now to you, Pietro, if you'd like to start. I'll keep letting people in as they log in. But yeah, welcome and thank you very much. If you'd like to start with an intro, and then if you have a presentation, you let me know.
I don't have a specific presentation as this is, anyway, we're going to talk about hemp in the textile industry tonight. And the fact is that, what people normally think is that hemp is something which is new. Actually, it is not. I mean, the hemp has been in the textile industry since for quite a long time. And it is there as well at the moment now. But the point is that what it is happening lately is that each and every time we talk about hemp in the textile industry, we are trying to connect it to what it is, a sustainability argument. And that's where things start being complicated, honestly, because if you just take into consideration what are the properties of hemp, well, hemp is very similar to linen at the end of the day. There is nothing very specific about hemp if compared to linen. Rather, we call them bast fibers or Liberian fibers, depending when you are in the planet. But it would be quite surprised to know that, just as an example, there is not a test which can tell you if in a specific fiber, in a specific fabric, there is hemp or there is linen. They are very difficult to recognize once they have spun. They have been spun and they are woven in a fabric and finished, maybe in your garments. So let's say that hemp is here since a long time. There are other fibers very similar to it. And lately, whatever we have been told is that hemp is sustainable. Now, if we want to see what hemp really means in the textile industry as far as sustainability, we should have a look at the broader picture, I think. And the main thing that people have to think about when they're talking about sustainability in the textile industries are two main things. And I say two. The first is that, if a consumer wants to know what is in the garment he is buying, you just have to look at the label, and you know exactly what the composition of the label is. There is an international law about that. In the same way that there are washing instructions, everything is available. In the same way, in the industry, in the value chain, we all know what it is tensile strength, what it is tear strength, what it is fastness of the colors, to washing, to, let's say, human sweat or the sunlight. These are all protocols which are very well established. There is nothing like that for sustainability. Whatever they may tell you, there is not an index which tells you how sustainable a garment you're about to buy is if compared to any other. There is nothing like that. And the consequence of this is that there are so many claims in the market about sustainability in the textiles nowadays that it is really very confusing. So this is the first thing that everybody has to have in their mind very clear. Whatever they tell you about sustainability in textiles, well, to use an euphemism, is very confused. There are a lot of claims. There is a lot of what is called normally greenwash. This is the first thing. The second thing is that sustainability, if you take the problem in a genuine way, it's all about volumes. There is a joke which tells you about what is the difference between governing Switzerland and governing India. If you are the Prime Minister of Switzerland, you are managing 8 million people. Not so difficult, apparently. They're also very disciplined. But if you are the Prime Minister of India, 1.3 billion inhabitants, well, it is not that you're having the same problems on a different scale. You're having different problems. So the thing is that whenever you think about sustainability in textiles, you have to have a very clear picture of what the numbers are. I'll give you a very clean and simple example. if you focus on what is the sustainability of a pair of jeans, it doesn't matter if they are made of cotton or made of a blend of hemp or whatever. Well, you focus on it and you may find out that, at the end of the day, the greenhouse gases inventory of a pair of jeans during the whole life is approximately, according to Levi's, I'm quoting my sources, Levi's research, they say it's approximately the equivalent of 30 kilograms of CO2, which is 200 kilometers of a small car, no more than that. The problem is that you have to multiply that number by the 500 million jeans that the European Union alone imports each and every year. And in the United States, it's a little higher than that, because generally speaking, even though you are less than us, we are 500 million, you are 330, you are consuming a little bit more than us. So first thing is greenwash. Second thing is that whatever solution you want to find for sustainability, well, you have to think about the numbers. Each solution that you're proposing has to be in such a way that it can handle this kind of volumes that we're talking about. Otherwise, it's just greenwash. Another example, you can go to any retail chain. I won't name them, but I think that you can imagine them. You will always find out that they have a little corner in which they find out, you will find out 100% sustainable garments. What they omitted to tell you is that that corner is moving 1% of their volumes. If Gucci is telling you we are 100% sustainable, well, thank you, Mr. Gucci. That's the least I expect from you. And in any case, you're moving what? 100 tons per year? And you're asking quite a lot after them. That's the minor thing. We have to talk about what are the big brands are doing. So, as I repeat, the volumes and the greenwash. Once you have clear in your minds these things, then you can imagine where hemp takes its place in the solution of the problem. If you're talking about sustainability, there are three things you have to consider. The first is the resources you're consuming. Each and everything that you take out of the environment has to be somehow replaced by the environment. If you're pumping water for your dining house, you're pumping water from a borewell, and year after year, you see that the level of the water in that borewell is going down. Well, of course, that is not sustainable, okay? Power has to be generated in a sustainable way. Even labor has to be sustainable. And using sustainable labor means that the wages that you have to give to the workers who are working in the value chain have to be such as these guys have to think that their tomorrow will be better than today. This is the base of human happiness. If you don't think that your tomorrow will be better than today, then, it's all useless, right? So that's the real thing about wages in Bangladesh or Pakistan or India or China or wherever. Now, the second thing is that you have to take care of the so-called side effects, what is normally called pollution. During the manufacturing, you are polluting air, you're polluting water, you are generating a lot of waste. Each and every industrial process is manufacturing a product and some waste. Now, waste can be 1%, 2%, but again, remember, you have to multiply it by the 500 millions of jeans, and I'm talking only about jeans, that the European Union is importing each and every year, and that's a problem. And after the last step is that you have to think, when you are engineering any product, that product that your consumer will buy at the end of the day, well, it has a lifespan. So after some time, the consumer will simply get rid of it. And what happens to that material when the consumer says, I don't want it anymore? Goes to incinerators, goes to landfills. What happens to those materials when they go to landfills? So if you have in mind these three things, then where is it that hemp as a fiber falls in? There is a lot of greenwash about hemp as well. But one thing is, and I think is the real argument of hemp is the agriculture part of it. Normally, what is happening nowadays is that people are comparing hemp to cotton. What are the differences? First difference is that, well, first of all, hemp can be cultivated almost everywhere on our planet. Let's take away Arctic and Antarctic, but it grows almost anywhere. Whereas we know that cotton is more or less a plant which lives in the subtropical areas, okay? So it's limited, whereas hemp, you can cultivate it anywhere. You can cultivate in US, it can grow in Pakistan, it can grow in China, it is growing in China a big way. So it moves everywhere. The yield of an acre of a field, which is grown with hemp, is quite good if compared to even the best cotton. The Australian cotton, 1,200 kilograms per acre. Well, out of lint, as far as hemp, you can get something even better than that. So in a planet where we are thinking that we are going to have 8 billion people in some years, or 10 billion people, the amount of ground that you're using for your fibers is also quite important. The second thing is that hemp is robust. You don't need many pesticides for hemp, whereas cotton is quite a weak plant. It's a bad beast. I mean, you know, it's delicate. The third thing is that cotton is a plant which spoils the soils. This is not happening for hemp. You don't need many fertilizer to keep on growing hemp on the same ground. Now, my take after some years, I've been developing collections made out of hemp or blends of hemp, is probably, I have been doing this for the last 6-10 years, more or less, something like that. My take out of hemp, the real argument of hemp, is on the agriculture part of it. Because once you move to the textile part of it, it means what are the properties of hemp and how is it easy or difficult to spin it, weave it, process it, cut it, get garments out of it. That's not bed of roses, guys. It's much easier to do that with cotton, very honestly. It's much easier. And most importantly, as I said before, the first point about sustainability is the greenwash, is the fake news or the omissions. Now, I'll give you 2 examples regarding hemp, since we are talking about hemp. First, for a long time, people have been saying that because you are using a garment which is made partially of hemp, that garment, that fabric, has an antimicrobial property. Not true. Simple as that. See, antimicrobial properties out of any material and out of textiles as well is a very well established protocol. We have tests internationally known about this. It is true that the hemp as a plant doesn't need pesticides. Bacteria have big difficulties in growing on hemp as long as it is on the ground, as long as it is a plant. Once you have decorticated it, once you have cleaned it, once you have bleached it because you want to cottonize it, all those properties are gone. There is nothing like that. It's the same thing that happened 10 years ago with bamboo. Bamboo is antimicrobial. Again, not true. The bamboo as a plant is easy to grow, no problem of bacteria. Once you decorticate it, once you take away the fibers out of it, it is not antimicrobial at all. First fake news. Second fake news, as an example for you, durability. We're all saying that fast fashion is killing us because we cannot keep on buying things. We need fabrics which are and garments which are more durable, so we can buy less things because the volumes are so that we are covering our landfills, we are incinerating everything. So if we have a fabric which is more durable, that's good. So hemp is good because it's more durable than cotton. Again, that's true if you use yarns which are 100% hemp. But nowadays, what is happening nowadays is that the trend is to blend hemp with other fibers. It might be lyocell, sorry, tencel is already a proprietary thing. Lyocell, it might be viscose, it might be cotton in the great majority of cases. Well, I have done this exercise quite many times. If you take the same 2 counts, same two yarns, 16 English count, 20 English count, 30 English count. You compare a 30 English count, 100% combed cotton, and you take the same count made out of, say, 70% cotton, 30% hemp, or 60-40, 50-50, doesn't matter. This one, the hemp blend, is always having less tear strength, less tensile strength of a properly spun 100% cotton. So that's another fake news. So to come to the end of this short presentation, hemp as, according to my experience, and I hope that someone is able to tell me that I am wrong, honestly, because myself, I'm struggling to, if I have to quote a Greek philosopher of the 4th century before Christ, I know I don't know. I mean, the sustainability subject in textile is so complicated because this industry is globalized. Whatever you're wearing nowadays, whatever you're wearing now has been probably made on the other side of the planet as far as cutting and stitching. And most probably the fabric is coming from some other place. And just the traceability of your garment is really a complicated issue. So it's very difficult to say that I know the solution, I have the magic wand. But after so many years in the textile industry, maybe I don't have the magic wand, but I bloody know when people are just, claiming or saying or are omitting the interesting part of the information. Sustainability has become a marketing tool. They are using it to sell. But as a friend of mine used to say, we have to think a simple question. We have to ask ourselves a simple question. Do we want to be a part of the problem or a part of the solution? If you're claiming, if you're boasting because you have to sell your textile machinery, your garments, your fabrics, then you are a part of the problem. You're not a part of the solution. And well, that's it as far as hemp, as far as I'm concerned. I think that the agriculture part, and that's a part where I know less, honestly, is very important. Looks very promising for the reasons I have listed before. But once you have moved it in yarns, fabrics, and afterwards, well, it's a little more complicated. Thank you, Mandi, for having me.
Yeah, I'd like to open it up for questions, you guys.
Please do.
I like that we're bringing up some of these misnomers or false truths, that are starting to come up, because this is really something. So I'd love feedback, Pietro. I know you have other people you've worked with. Maybe we want to introduce some of them. Any of you that have experience on this call, I'd love to open it up. If you guys have specific input or questions.
I think that there are some very brave people who are watching us from Pakistan. I see people watching us from Italy. I see some people watching me from, from United States, people I work with. You just say your say, guys. I'm here to answer.
I'd love to hear. And I'm so bad with names, I can't pronounce very well. There was a gentleman on earlier that you said that was from Asia and is in Canada now, has been in the textile industry. I didn't know,
honestly. Tariq, you're talking about Tariq.
Yeah, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about your background, and do you have your experience working with hemp and Pietro? And
I don't have much experience working with hemp, but
okay.
I've privileged to work with Pietro on some of the projects in the past, with Pietro and INVISTA. I've been in the industry for almost 22 years, and I agree with Pietro. It's a very complex subject to really identify the supply chain issues where we, how to put it in a simple way, to identify the sustainability solution. Like I said, yarn is made somewhere else, then processing is done of the fabric at another country or another manufacturing site, and the garmenting is done at a totally different site. And the impact of each and every process is immense. Pietro has been in the industry much longer than me, but I've seen in my past experience, the numbers are unbelievable. And I agree with him. The solution is one of the best solution is reduction of consumption. That is the way to have a product which can last for longer and which we can use for longer period. And obviously, and there, I mean, right now this pressure of doing better than last year, selling more product, more machine, more trouser, is adding up to our problem further now.
Okay, well, thank you. Does anybody have any questions so far? It's a quiet group, and a lot of the questions we collected were very broad and that basic. Jordan, go ahead.
So I spent the week this week in Colorado Springs at the American Cotton Shippers meeting. And in the interest of full disclosure, I'm vice president of the National Cotton Council and past president of Cotton Council International. And so you can see kind of where my career lies. But we were discussing BCI, which is Better Cotton Initiative, versus the new Cotton Trust Protocol, and then cotton leads and sustainability relative to cotton and textiles. And the one question we kept coming back to was, does sustainability have to provide traceability? And right now, hemp would be much easier. We think it'd be much easier to provide traceability for hemp than cotton. We've done it with cotton with lead genes, and it was expensive and didn't work that well. But are sustainability and traceability the same thing, or do we have to be sustainable? Because what we're hearing is mass bales don't work anymore for retailers and consumers. Just knowing that sort of the BCI approach, where we say a certain number of bales were produced sustainably and a certain number of bales were consumed sustainably, so we're meeting our target. But we don't know which bales and which products and where they came from. So can you be sustainable without being traceable?
The answer is that traceability of the product is the real thing that you have to you must have. Otherwise, it's all about it becomes very difficult. I'll tell you something about my personal experience. I have been living in India for 12 years, and I put up a plant there, and I've been working there for quite a while. For 6 years, I ran my own joint venture there. And being there and producing so-called organic cotton, I realized that in India, there is a huge market of fake certificates. See, you just take, the fact is that you're talking about BCI. Let's talk about organic cotton, which is something which was supposed to be a little bit more strict than BCI at the beginning. But still, there are a lot of companies who are saying, I am giving you this garment. You see this garment you're buying is organic cotton. Now, if you sum up all the garments that are sold as organic cotton nowadays in US or in EU, well, it looks like 20%, 25% of the cotton production of the world is organic. That does not reach 1%. It does not. So the traceability of the problem, Jordan, is definitely very important. But don't think that this is not happening for hemp. As I said before, there is not a test which will tell you that that yarn is hemp or linen or ramen. It's nothing like that. There is a very old test which is based on a reagent, which is supposed to give you something which is, let's say, yellow if it is hemp, or orange if it is linen, or red if it is linen, sorry. And when I spoke about this with the labs here in Europe, here in Italy, they kept on telling me, you know what, we do that test, and every time we get something which is orangish. So it's very difficult to understand, do we have linen or hemp in our hands? We don't know. Whatever is coming from today, what it is used is so-called cottonized hemp, which means two things. You're taking the hemp, you have done the decortication, you have done the, you have taken away all the lignite, and then because you want to blend it with cotton or lyocell, you have to cut it between 30 and 40 millimeters. And that's easy. It's a mechanical thing. You put it in a cutter, you get it out. But that's not enough, because hemp or linen, they are much more woodish than lyocell, viscose, or cotton. So it won't happen that they blend properly if you don't do something else. And the rest, what you have to do is soda baths, peroxide, you have to treat it chemically. Now, what happens to those baths after that treatment? That's a big question, because it is not easy to treat those effluents, because they are so full of impurities that are not even a biological effluent treatment plant will be easily managed to handle these baths. So whatever is coming from China is very easy to recognize. It's white. You have your bale of cottonized hemp coming into your spinning, and you take one bale of that, one bale of cotton, you make a 50-50% blend, and you keep on running with the spinning, right? Very easy. But once you receive hemp that it is whitish, you have to remember that the natural color of hemp, I am sure that there are farmers here, is not white. It is greenish, it is grayish. So if you receive a bale of hemp, of so-called cottonized hemp, which is white or whitish, this means that it has passed through some kind of chemical production. Now, at that point, the traceability is important, because I want to know if my hemp has been pre-treated in such a way that it is not harming the environment. Otherwise, guys, I'm going to the cotton. The cotton is ginned, and ginning is just a mechanical process. I know I use power. I can do a greenhouse gas inventory of the power I'm using for ginning, but that I'm safe. With hemp coming from China, People's Republic of China, I don't know. I know I don't know. That's the point, as usual.
Here's some hemp. You can't see it very well, but we're processing here. We're cottonizing it here in the U.S. with peroxide. As you can see, it's still got some of its natural color, but I'm not sure that it's spinnable. It's not very spinnable yet. We're still trying to figure that out.
Well, that is the interesting part of it, because once you have cleaned it, once the retting is happened on the farm, on the fields, once you have decorticated, you have crushed it, decorticated, you have cleaned it of the lignite, you have passed it through peroxide and soda. First of all, the question is, you are in the United States, and I guess that you cannot simply release your baths in the river. Whereas, again, I know I don't know what is happening in the Yellow River in China, right? And that you don't know. Anyway,
we're using an old dye house that has a water treatment facility attached. And so like you said, cotton, you take cotton post-gin, it's ready for spinning. This, we've done, 6 different processes to make it spinnable.
Right.
I think Hemp Vortex is working on building a closed loop system for their wet processing of their hemp.
Well, there are 2 ways to, I don't know if you refer to spinning or processing of the fabric. Which one are you referring to?
The cottonizing. So the chemistry is applied to the hemp fiber pre-spinning.
It's basically, as far as I know, I'm not an expert in that. In fact, what I was hoping to find someone who could explain me this during this this session is that I'm not a very expert about that, but I know that it passes through parts of caustic and peroxide. That's the 2 things. It's look, there is nothing new about this. This is the same thing that you're doing on linen since ages in Europe.
There are a few other technologies that people have figured out that do not use the caustic and peroxide combo, but it's all protected information, and they're trying to funnel everything through their processes.
I can't tell. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We have seen quite a few now that are starting to come up that are, like you said, just a different process. People are trying to look at different opportunities in different ways. What I'm really thrilled to hear is the experience and the reality of what we're looking at for cottonized blends, or blends compared to the 100% hemps. And especially where, and Claire, I know you've seen this, but I think pretty much everybody for the most part is cottonizing or trying to cottonize.
The reason is simple.
I don't think so.
Oh, good. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I can speak to a few words about traceability. I've been involved in various initiatives in agriculture over the last 20 years. I don't mean to derail the conversation here, but as a practical matter, or just from a pure implementation standpoint, you don't actually need traceability if you're working within a closed ecosystem or a closed supply chain. However, from a more realistic standpoint, in order to be able to prove something specifically to vendors, buyers, aggregators outside of that closed supply chain, then yes, it becomes a de facto business requirement from that standpoint. The problem that I've seen in the past is that the only way to do this successfully, unless you're a huge organization, so for example, Cargill has internal traceability metrics, and I've worked on those projects. I used to live in Minneapolis. But so the good news is the gentleman that was from the cotton organization that was speaking, industry consortiums are the only way to even begin to think about actually doing this, to get the necessary players involved. The problem is when push comes to shove, and what I'm talking about is specific requirements gathering meetings where you have all the players in the room, is it turns out nobody wants to actually share the metrics, the business metrics that it takes to create a true system of traceability. Because even if you're you have to include volume information, you have to include quality information, and once you have quality and volume, you can determine price. And I have never seen an actual industry consortium where if all the players have more or less equal power, sometimes there's somebody that can bully a pilot project through, at least to get it funded. I've seen projects get funded. I've seen the technology sort of work, but I've never, to my knowledge, and again, I'm a little out of date, so I'd love to be corrected, but and the only way to do it is an industry consortium where all the players have a vested interest and can basically they have enough power to push the initiative through, but the power is distributed enough that nobody can completely derail it. There are some ongoing initiatives that are using blockchain technologies to maybe anonymize some of the transactions, where the only people that can see the volumes are if you're the actual purchaser of those quantities. But those are all very early stage. Santa Fe Farms is an investor in one of those initiatives, and I'd be happy to talk offline if anybody is super into that.
Cool. Any other questions or anything else? I see a lot of you nodding head, and I've seen some of your cameras come on and off and on and off. Robert, I don't know if you have anything you want to add or any questions. I saw your camera come on, and I said, Jennifer, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to ask.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Winiecki, and so I'm new to the fiber as far as the fabric on that side of it. I come from the cannabis and CBD side of things, where some of my clients, this is my processing equipment. So we separate the flower from the leaf for CBD and for cannabis. And for hemp, what's left over is a lot of rest of the plant. And what some of our really large scale clients, 1,000-acre and more farmers, are doing is they're growing hemp for fiber, and they're also growing hemp for flower. So they come through and they top off everything. They get the best of one harvest, and then what's left over they process for flower, or excuse me, for fiber. So that's what got me into, hey, what's the other side of this all about? And that brings me into this room. And I'm very happy to be here. If anyone's a farmer in here or thinking about farming or thinking of making the switch from something else into cannabis or into hemp, hemp mostly, hemp got a hard, rough break because of water. And, a water usage in some of the areas, there was a drought, and a lot of farmers backed off. And now some of them are going back into it again. And hemp uses a lot less water, but this is a kind of a tight learning curve. And, you know, the ones that have been in it for a little while, a couple of years that are really going strong, there's no looking back, and they're happy and they're rich, and they're bringing 3, 4, 5 times what they used to on their old crop, whatever it was, alfalfa or whatever. And, you know, but it is a learning curve. So
where can you share your contact information in the chat? Okay. Any other questions that we want to jump on? I saw Johnny, your camera came on a little bit ago. Or
back on what Robert was saying, and you know, an area that I'm really curious about in development is paying attention to the companies that are trying to make a viscose or regenerated cellulosic fiber from hemp, from cannabis waste, from various field wastes, and making a fiber that way with, you know, their proprietary pulping methods. So I'd be curious to hear your opinion about that, Pietro.
Well, point is that maybe I didn't get exactly what you were asking. What is your opinion you would like to have? I didn't get that.
Well, you know, we a lot of us here have spent a lot of energy and time and effort trying to optimize and sophisticate supply chain to have a traditionally processed bast fiber for blending and spinning. And I'm just interested to observe the development of natural man-made fibers with hemp as feedstock. Looks like Jim's got a hand up about that.
The thing is that, you know, as I said at the beginning, hemp has been around for a long time. I mean, it's centuries. So once you talk about bast fibers or Liberian fibers, as we call them here in Europe, there are 2 ways to handle them. One is the so-called wet spinning, and the other one is the cottonized spinning. If you're doing the wet spinning, that's a traditional way to handle these fibers, which naturally are 40, but not 40 millimeters as cotton. They are 40 centimeters. They're much longer. So when we're talking about wet spinning, means that to spin these long fibers, you need to dip them into the water. And that's the reason why that specific technology is called wet spinning. Now, that is a technology which is the traditional technology of bast fibers. It's quite expensive, basically because the productivity is low. Secondly, because the machines are running in wet conditions, and they have to be, you know, they have to be machines which are stainless, made out of stainless. So they're very expensive. But that's where you get the best out of those fibers. Nowadays, if you look at Levi's has just promoted the 501 project, made 70% cotton, 30% of hemp. And Levi's is very serious about these things, because Levi's has never claimed about antimicrobial properties or longevity or durability. They just say, we are having a fabric here which is 30% of hemp. We are saving 30% of cotton, which is a plant which is having problems, is giving problems in the subtropical conditions and so on. The reason why people are moving very quickly towards cottonized hemp, because it's because the spinning technology is already available anywhere in the world. I mean, even in US, you have cotton spinning mills. Now, I'm not saying that easy, because, I mean, spinning, as I said at the beginning, spinning yarn, which is 70% cotton and 30% hemp, is already no bed of roses. If you go further, 50-50, 60-50, well, that's a headache. That's really a headache for any spinner. But you can get it. I mean, it's already available. Chinese are selling that. In Pakistan, and they're selling it yarns, they're selling it in as fibers. I have been developing collections made in like that in Pakistan, and the hemp was all coming from China, some of it from Europe. But the technology is already available. That's a big thing. The spinning technology is already available. Then there are many other problems, because the hand feel of a fabric which is made out of 70-30 30% of hemp. Well, it's not the hand feel you are used to buy in your jeans or in your t-shirt. The hand feel is different. And it is a little bit more woodish. So you have to give other arguments. You have to finish it in a particular way. You have to handle it properly. We have to remember one thing: whatever we produce has to be sold somehow. Even if it has other arguments, it has to be acceptable to the consumer. If the consumer is used with, t-shirt made out of Egyptian cotton 40 millimeters, then, I mean, the softness, you will never reach that with hemp. But it has other arguments: moisture management, not antimicrobial, but durability maybe, I don't know, we have to check. So if the question was, what is the technology which is behind hemp textile? Well, the reason why we are all moving towards cottonized hemp is because we want to use the same technology we are using for cotton. And whatever you are using which is natural means cellulosic, and cellulosic are cotton, hemp, linen, viscose. Viscose is a man-made fiber, but it is coming from cellulosic. All these fibers, whatever garment you have of these kind of fibers, even if you accept the business model of fast fashion, it goes to the landfills. In 5 years, it's not there anymore. If you have a blend in which there is polyester, well, the polyester will be there for 200 years. You burn polyester, there's not only CO2 you're liberating to the air, there are other gases which are not good at all. It's not Chanel number 5 that you're giving from the incinerators when you are burning polyester or nylon, polyamide. So I am definitely for natural fibers because of the third point I was listing at the beginning of my presentation. Whenever you are engineering a fabric, you have to think what happens to that garment when its lifespan is finished, because sooner or later.
And I know that there's some controversy about standards. Yeah, and I want to hear Jim's perspective as a spinner. I know there's some controversy on regenerated cellulosic fibers and whether they can be considered biodegradable, and regulatory issues on state levels looking at that too. So I'm just curious, Jim, what were you going to say?
Well, when you brought that up about taking hemp and then putting it into the pulp and making a viscose product out of it, I think that would work wonderfully. In fact, we have some we already have some examples of that happening with bamboo, and you think about viscose from bamboo, and what ended up happening when that was first introduced, people were just calling it bamboo, and everybody really loved it, and they said, we want some of this bamboo. And then finally somebody raised the flag and said, wait a second, people, this is viscose using bamboo, and all the things that happen with regular bamboo, you can't claim those properties. And so what I would imagine would be something similar happening with hemp. And I think you would get a wonderful fiber that the spinners would be able to spin, because we spin viscose from bamboo very easily. It's a wonderful fiber. However, it's really a marketing deal, right? To have viscose from bamboo instead of viscose from other wood, and bamboo grows quicker than other woods. So you have a sustainable story. I see a similar thing with hemp, where it would be a good story from the standpoint of you're using an input into the viscose that grows a whole lot quicker than traditional woods that are used for viscose. But I don't know that you would really capture a lot of the properties from the base hemp, but you would have something that could spin. So be a good marketing story, could be a sustainability story. I think it would spin way better than any of the hemp we're using now, but I think it's only you're really gonna get marginal effects from the hemp. It's really just gonna be an input for viscose.
And my understanding is, of course, economies of scale is a limiting factor, and just having the volume able to support a commercial pulping plant. And do you know the Herd Co? It's a startup in Southern California that's piloting this.
No.
Okay, they're piloting it, and then AgriLoop through Circular Systems has also done some work in this. But you know, I'm hoping that they will continue to scale and their pilot facilities will be successful, and there's, you know, a pathway for that.
Now this is what could be cool along those lines. So Pietro made the comment that when you put regular hemp in with cotton, it does cause the hand to be harsher and it gives it a woody feel. If you put viscose rayon in, that's softer than cotton. So you might be able to take the viscose from hemp, add it to regular hemp, and come up with a blend that solves some of the problems of the regular hemp, because you know you have something that's soft with something that's a little woody, and then it's all sort of a hemp story. So you know that could play into it down the road, with that product being a good partner for regular hemp, a better partner than cotton. And then Pietro, commenting on something you said, our particular company in the United States has long staple worsted spinning. I would prefer that they don't cottonize it and provide fibers that are 4 inches long instead of 1.5 inches long or 1 inch long. But you're right, more people have spinning technology, so there are more options to spin it, and that's why cottonizing is going. But cottonizing does tend to, I think somebody made a comment, fracture the fibers. And we certainly see with the cottonized hemp a lot of fracturing of the fibers. And now I'm going to go back to mute and be quiet.
Oh, thanks, Jim. I think it's great. This is exactly what I want. I don't know if anybody else has comments on that.
But I just want to highlight one thing regarding this matter of cottonized hemp or Liberian fibers in general. Hemp is just one of them. Same thing we could talk about for ramie or linen. The point is that we think that using hemp in the textiles is good because it is more sustainable than other fibers. Now, remember one thing, when you're talking about sustainability, as I said, you have to take care of what happens to the resources you're using. Among the resources, there definitely is the power. Now, there are researches about this. How much kilowatts or how much joules it takes to take 1 ton of cotton lint in front of the carding system, in front of the cards in a spinning, and how much energy does it take to take 1 ton of cellulosic? Doesn't matter if it comes from the trees of Canada, or it comes from hemp, or it comes from anywhere else, and transform that into fiber that you can spin with wet technology or cotton technology. It doesn't change much. The thing is that when you're talking about sustainability, you have to look at all the perspective of it. So if I am using more power because I need to extrude the cellulosic and make the fibers, then I need someone who tells me what the inventory is. I need someone who tells me what the inventory is. Because ginning, I know ginning machines, they use that much of power. How much power does it take to Lenzig or Aditya Birla, to talk about the two biggest producers of viscose fibers in the world? One is Austrian, the other one is Indian. They put together 60% of the viscose family in the world. How much power does it take to transform 1 ton of cellulosic material, which by the way is coming from Canada because they want the canopy system, right? So it's coming from Canada, it's going to Austria, and then all those bales are going mainly where? In Asia, guys, because if we can accept that a t-shirt is costing you $50, then we do everything in the United States, and it will cost 40 euros in European Union. But if you want to find your t-shirts at $5 at Macy's or any retail shop in US, you have no choice. You have to go to Bangladesh and cut and stitch your fiber there. So at that point, I want the inventory. I want to say, okay, how much did it cost to transform that hemp, that cellulosic into fiber, bring it to a spinning unit in India or Pakistan, bring the fabric to Bangladesh, cut and stitch it, and then back to United States? That is the correct approach to sustainability. Otherwise, we are just talking about a fiber. You are saying, yes, I mix, viscose family with hemp. Great. Yeah, it has a sense. I'm having something which is woodish, a little bit more probably rigid, and I'm mixing with something which is very soft by definition. The viscose family, doesn't matter if it is lyocell, modal, or viscose. It is, in any case, more soft than anything. But for God's sake, I got cotton. I do the same thing without all this headache. At the end of the day,
well, but like you said, at the end of the day, you got to sell the product, and modal feels way better than cotton. For a particular consumer.
The point is that according to the researchers, if you're taking 1 ton of cotton in front of the blow rooms of a spinning unit, you are spending approximately 180 megajoule. If you're doing with viscose, it's 120 megajoule.
Yes, but what if you can make viscose from waste material and not grow as much cotton to begin with and use that agricultural land to grow food?
No problem, but the extrusion process is always there. Have you ever been in front of an extrusion process machine? I mean, an extrusion plant?
Oh, it's
and again, if you're doing that in Pakistan or India, where the power is made burning coal, is one thing. If you're doing that in Austria, where power is hydroelectric, I live on the other side of the Alps. I am living in Italy on the other side of the Alps. I am in Südtirol. This is a German area of Italy, and all of our power is hydroelectric, so it's sustainable according to latest confirms. But if you're doing it in Pakistan, that is coal, guys. So the greenhouse gas inventory, which is a protocol available since 1998, will give you a completely different picture. So, I mean, as I said, there are many different perspectives to the thing. If someone of you asks me, what is the advantage of hemp? Well, I will stop and fix and focus on the fact you do not need fertilizers, you do not need pesticides, and most probably, once I make the greenhouse gases emissions inventory of hemp from the field to the carding machine, which is the first machine of the spinning, take away the blow room, because in any case it's different. Well, probably what I have from hemp is just a little bit more than what it is used for cotton. And in any case, whatever I am using less on the fields supersedes that difference. But that difference is there. The moment you're using hemp as a raw material for viscose family, well, at that point, there is a plant in the middle. And I want to know that plant is using the power coming from where? Otherwise, it's good. You're doing a nice thing, but don't talk about sustainability, not at least to me. Because it has to be calculated.
Yeah, and that's where we're choosing to focus is what happens on the soil level, and eager to get more data there over the next coming years. But that's our hypothesis, is that hemp has soil restoration properties that is valuable.
Yeah.
So with that, we're at about an hour, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And so we'll wrap it up here in just a sec. But we did start a carbon sequestering group where we discussed this specifically. It meets the 1st of June and then the first Tuesday of every month starting. But we have a pretty dominant group that's going to be coming together to talk about that, Claire. So I'd love to have you join and really dive in. Got quite a bit of knowledge that's been dropped on me lately. So I feel like my brain is exploding around that aspect. And so I really like that you also feel that way, Pietro, that's where the value is. But anything else? Yes, for anyone else, I'll turn it over for the last questions real quick before Pietro has to leave. And then thank you very much for everybody joining today. Nobody else?
I just want to make one comment before we end.
Yeah, go ahead.
In Pakistan, coal is the least part of our energy mix. because we don't have our own coal. We have to import from Indonesia or South Africa. We have hydro energy, we have solar energy. We are produced using oil as well, heavy oil, but coal is the least part. Perhaps in US, they are consuming much more coal than in Pakistan. Our total energy requirement is 20,000 megawatts. So, and coal may be not even 10% of that total energy mix. So just want to share the information with Pietro. He worked with me on a project together, and we used to use biomass for the energy. I'm sure you know.
ISAS is a great resource in your place.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you.